And joining me now, Senator Doug Jones, Democrat from Alabama, who, along with all Senate Democrats except for Joe Manchin, voted no on Kavanaugh's confirmation. Senator, welcome, sir. Thank you for joining me. First question, have you made peace with Kavanaugh being justice for life, or do you think he should be impeached?
Well, I'm not going to go to that point. I haven't seen all of the details in the article, but you know, this was inevitable. I think the point that people are making is that we didn't have a proper investigation. There was a real rush to make sure this nomination got through according to the timetable that Senator McConnell wanted it to get through, and there was no point in that. We should have had a full, fair, thorough investigation. These questions would have come up then and would have been answered. So I think it's you know, right now we're getting into a political season, which just makes it even worse.
But, Senator, when you talk about an appointment for life that, by your own opinion and the opinion of many others joining you, without having a full investigation, is there anything that can be done to continue looking into Brett Kavanaugh?
Well, there's things that can be done. Whether they will be done remains to be seen based on the allegations that have come out in the Times today. You know, we'll see how that goes. At some point, though, I mean, he was confirmed. That is what our Constitution says. Now, if it is, in fact, that he lied to the committee, that's a pretty serious allegation, and people can be impeached for that. But I think the fact is this is inevitable, and that's what I think the other side fails to recognize. I think it's what the president fails to recognize, that this was inevitable, that someone would continue to investigate and get to the bottom of this. And it's unfortunate that we didn't have all of this information for everyone to have a full investigation and an opportunity to review it back in the fall.
Well, speaking of the other side, sir, here is what one of your Republican colleagues said about this earlier today. Take a listen.
At the end of the day, the American people made a judgment that the evidence wasn't there, the corroboration wasn't there. And I think this article just shows the obsession with the far left, with trying to smear Justice Kavanaugh. At some point, they just have to let the anger go.
Senator Ted Cruz there airing his thoughts. Should the American public just forget about this? Or do you think there is an avenue for some form of justice for the accusers?
Well, there's got to be a full investigation, and it can't be just simply what's going on in a report. I think people jump the gun too quickly. That's part of the problem that we have. We have the problem with the media. We have the problem with both sides. Everybody has absolutely, based on this one report, already gone to their corners. And that's unfortunate in American politics. We cannot have civil discussions without talking about it. Impeachment this or investigations there. This has all become personal. I agree with Ted to some extent on that. This has now become a political issue. It's a personal issue. But he's wrong in the fact that the American people didn't vote for Brett Kavanaugh. That was a Senate confirmation. It was not the American people. And the American people, I think, are still pretty divided over that issue.
All right, Senator Jones, let's talk right now about the memorial service marking the 56th year since that bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham. You are the perfect guest to talk about this. You were in law school, sir, when you went to the trial of the first suspect. And when you became U.S. Attorney in Alabama, you prosecuted 2 more white supremacist suspects. So here's what Joe Biden said about you today.
He, like many of you, he never gave up on justice for Addie Mae or Cynthia or Carol or Denise. Never.
Yes, sir.
It didn't matter to him that almost 40 years had passed. Doing the right thing doesn't tarnish with time. We know we're not there yet.
So what goes through your mind on a day like this?
Well, I think back to those children. I think back to their families. I think back to my community. I think back to the fact that, you know, Birmingham at the time kind of tried to sweep this under the carpet and ignore it as if it didn't really happen. And now we memorialize this every year because we seem to be sliding back. There's more hateful rhetoric going on in our political discourse, in our social discourse today, and it can lead to deadly consequences. We saw it in Charleston. We saw it in Charlottesville. We saw it in Pittsburgh. We need to come together as one country, one state, each state, one people. We need to be unified, not divided. And our political rhetoric these days tends to divide us more than it unifies us, and that is just unfortunate. We have to remember things that happened in Birmingham and elsewhere so that we don't repeat those mistakes. And unfortunately, we are repeating those.
Joe Biden, in some ways today, reacted to criticism that came his way after Thursday night's debate. And I know, sir, that you have endorsed him. You did so back in April. So what did you think, first of all, of his performance at the debate? And do you see why some felt that his answers may have been somewhat disqualifying? And you're welcome to couple that with what you think of his address today and if he hit the right tone.
Well, I thought his debate performance was very, very strong. It was very good. I don't think he said anything that was disqualifying. The problem that we've got today is that so many people look through the political lens of today and they don't look back on somebody's full history. And his history has been one for the African-American people. It is one for civil rights and standing up for human rights, to always speaking out and doing the right thing. That's why he was the first African-American president's vice president. But Barack Obama would have never chosen him had there been any question about his commitment to civil rights, human rights, and the all minority communities in this country. So I was pleased with his performance the other night in the debate. I was especially moved with his speech today. This is always a moving memorial service, and to have a former vice president with his history give those remarks today was especially important for the family and for this community, and I think for folks across this country.
Last question to you, Senator. As someone who has been on the front lines of prosecuting hate, what do you think Biden needs to do to really make a difference in African Americans and this country's fight against institutionalized racism?
Well, I think he does that. I think he talks about it, and I think that's the biggest problem. We as a country and we as a state of Alabama have never fully reckoned with the original sin of slavery, and we don't talk about it. We like to brag about how far we've come, but in fact, we have only gone so far, and we are still backsliding. We've got to have a Supreme Court that recognizes the importance of the voting rights. We need to get voting rights out there. I think he's going to be pushing for those things, and he's going to continue to talk about that, and he's got a record that can back it up, and I'm proud of that record for him, and I think as long as we continue to talk about that. And the most important thing right now with social media, we see so much hateful rhetoric out there. We've got to dial that back. We've got to teach our children, our grandchildren, we've got to get all people to dial back this hateful rhetoric so that people can not just completely go to their corners to talk about race and how it affects all of us. We're a diverse society, and we're becoming ever more diverse. People have to come to grips with that, and let's start acting like we're one people.
Alabama Senator